download speeds greater than 100 megabytes per second. That means our latency is low enough to play the fastest online video games. And our download speeds are fast enough to stream multiple HD movies at once and still have bandwidth to spare. To add features to unlock the full capability of that network. We also have a bit of exciting news. Recently, as the Starlink team completed a test of 2 satellites in orbit that are equipped with our inter-satellite links, which we call space lasers. With these space lasers, the Starlink satellites were able to transfer hundreds of gigabytes of data. Once these space lasers are fully deployed, Starlink will be one of the fastest options available to transfer data around the world. If you would like to receive updates on Starlink news and service availability in your area, be sure to visit starlink.com. So we're currently at 4 minutes and 15 seconds until liftoff, and Falcon 9 is moving into the final stages of the countdown. The first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene of fuel and liquid oxygen. The first and second stage fuel loading is complete, and liquid oxygen loading is still in progress. Super chilled liquid oxygen, which, like I mentioned earlier, is our propellant oxidizer, is what's creating those white clouds that you see right there. That occurs when that super chilled LOX is exposed to warmer ambient air, so completely normal. First stage should be finishing up prop loading at T-minus 3 minutes, and the second stage around T-minus 2 minutes. At T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will move into startup. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. The Starlink payload continues to be healthy. The F9 team continues to track no issues on the rocket. Weather is looking good, and the range is...
Estamos basicamente aqui a 3 minutos do lançamento de mais uma missão Starlink.
Strong wave blowers close out. Stage 1 LOX load complete.
So there we just heard the call out that LOX load is complete on first stage. Like I mentioned before, second stage continues to get topped off. Everything continues to look good for an on-time liftoff this morning.
Stage 2 LOX load close out.
LOX loading on second stage is now complete. Falcon 9 is now fully loaded with 1 million pounds of liquid kerosene and super chilled liquid oxygen.
Ground gas closeouts discerning. Falcon 9 is in startup.
There we heard the call out that Falcon 9 is in startup. The flight computers have taken over the launch sequence. First and second stages are now beginning to pressurize for launch.
LD is go for launch. Stage 2 pressing for flight.
Ora, a confirmação foi dada que vai haver lançamento.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Dentro de 30 segundos será o lançamento então mais uma missão Starlink.
All systems are go for launch. Let's listen in to the final countdown and watch as Falcon 9 takes our Starlink
Stage 1 tanks pressing
satellites
for flight.
to orbit.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Ora aí, vamos
Ignition.
nós.
And liftoff.
Vehicle switching downrange. M1D performance is nominal.
Quando é dito que a performance é nominal, quer dizer que todos os sistemas estão a funcionar conforme previstos na sua potência máxima. É impressionante a velocidade da aceleração. Em pouco tempo temos ali 700 km por hora.
Successful liftoff for Falcon 9 from pad 39A
nominal.
at Kennedy Space Center.
Uh,
We just heard that power telemetry is nominal.
Quando é dada esta indicação da telemetria nominal, quer dizer que todos os sistemas
Moments
de
ago, we began
navegação
to
estão a funcionar
throttle
corretamente.
the 9 Merlin engines that you see. They're propelling the first stage through the atmosphere. We begin to throttle them down in preparation for max Q.
Nesta altura, os novos motores Merlin desaceleram.
The vehicle just went through the moment in which it experiences the greatest aerodynamic pressure. In about a minute, we're going to have 3 events happening back to back. First will be main engine cutoff, or MECO, where all 9 M1D engines will shut down and slow the vehicle in preparation for event number 2, stage separation. As the name indicates, this is where the first and second stages will
MVAC engine
separate.
chill has begun.
There we heard the call for MVAC engine chill, indicating that the second stage is preparing for that stage sep and ignition of MVAC. After stage separation, stage 1 will start to make its way back to Earth for its landing on our drone ship.
Nesta altura vai haver a separação do first stage.
Third event, SES1, or second engine start 1, where MVAC will ignite and begin to propel the second stage along with the Starlink satellites to orbit. Expecting MECO in about 10 seconds.
A sigla MECO quer dizer Main Engine Cutoff, que é o que está a acontecer agora.
Alright, on your screen there we have visual confirmation of those 3 events.
É interessante ver que certos resíduos já não sofrem a resistência ao ar como habitualmente na atmosfera terrestre.
The next event we have coming up is fairing deployment.
E neste momento o Falcon 9 já começa o first stage já começa de regresso à Terra para aterrar.
Starlink satellites.
Os fairings acabam de ser abertos e, portanto,
Back to Earth
basicamente,
as well. Like I mentioned,
os satélites Starlink já ficam expostos até estarem na órbita correta.
they'll be happening after we close our webcast. So be sure to check in on our social media accounts for updates on that. Second stage telemetry looks good. Everything is nominal there. Now, as it heads towards its targeted drop off orbit, first stage there on the left-hand side of your screen will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth.
Ainda antes do Falcon 9, que se dirige agora já para a aterragem, de volta à Terra, vai haver duas ignições. Uma que serve para ficar na trajetória correta e a segunda que servirá já para a aterragem.
Continues minutes later, the second stage will happen, or excuse me, the second burn will happen, and that is the landing burn. And this is where a single engine will reignite and bring the vehicle's speed down rapidly as it prepares to land on our drone ship. Today's landing attempt will be with the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You, which is currently located 350 nautical miles northeast of the Cape. The 60 Starlink satellites that we have on board today will be joining our constellation of nearly 700 already on orbit. Again, these satellites are designed to provide high-speed, low-latency internet to us Earthlings. This is especially useful in places where good internet is hard to access or impossible. So not only rural areas, but thinking about airplanes and ships will also be able to
Stage 1
receive
FTS is saved.
high-speed, reliable internet.
Stage 1, entry burn startup.
So there we have visual confirmation that the first of two burns, the entry burn, has begun. And this will last for about another 5 seconds.
Stage 1, entry burn shutdown.
All right, shutdown of those, again, that was performed with three engines.
Acabou de acontecer a ignição de entrada na atmosfera terrestre para desacelerar o Falcon 9.
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
The next
Stage
event
1,
that
entry transonic.
the next event we have coming up in about 30 seconds is the first stage landing burn.
MVAC throttling down.
There we heard the call out for MVAC throttling down in preparation for second engine cutoff, which will happen just before T plus 9 minutes.
Terminal guidance.
Stage 1, landing burn startup.
All right, we heard the call out that the landing burn for stage 1 has begun.
Então o Falcon 9 neste momento já iniciou a ignição
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
para reentrada,
Stage
para
1,
desacelerar.
landing deploy.
E estamos então a ver aqui a aterragem no drone ship que está no meio do oceano, onde ele aterrou perfeitamente.
Landing confirmed.
That this booster has landed for a second time. There we see a live shot from our drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Of Course I Still Love You. Hear the clapping and celebration of some of our first shift technicians here in the building. Second stage continues to look good.
Nominal orbital insertion.
All right, and there we just heard the call out for good orbit for second stage. So at this point, stage 2 is going to coast in this orbit for just a few minutes. During this time, it will start to spin along its central axis, giving the Starlink satellites the momentum that they need to deploy and space themselves out over time after deployment.
Expected loss of signal.
We're going to
Cape.
take a quick break here, and we'll be back at T plus 14 minutes and 15
Acquisition
seconds.
of signal.
Stick-
Ora bem, foi mais um lançamento, aqui vou acompanhar o lançamento da missão do Starlink, onde vão ser colocados mais uma série de satélites da rede Starlink, que vai permitir o acesso à internet de todos os locais do planeta a uma velocidade muito, muito considerável. É uma aposta da SpaceX, cobrir o planeta com uma constelação enorme de satélites para poder permitir o acesso à internet de qualquer ponto da Terra sem qualquer tipo de limitação. Não se esqueçam de ver os próximos acontecimentos, nomeadamente o lançamento da SN6, provavelmente ainda hoje, portanto estejam atentos aqui ao canal Learn and Share. Obrigado e até à próxima.